Hi, I'm John.
And I'm Megan.
And this is the Vargas Venture,
where we teach you how to hack through adulthood.
And in today's video, we're actually going to talk about our wedding and what it was like planning and having a wedding in the middle of a global pandemic.
It was unordinary, to say the least.
First, obviously, we got engaged, and from then on, Megan planned most of our wedding within weeks of our engagement.
All of the wedding within weeks of the engagement.
Which was a huge time saver, but that was still months in advance of our wedding, and at that time, COVID wasn't a thing yet, so we had no idea what was in store for us.
So then March hit, and we were told, I'm a school teacher, and so we were told we would be out for the week before spring break, and then we'd be out spring break and we would come back and school year would go on as normal. So we assumed our wedding would go on as normal. The April hit, we didn't go back to school, but John and I still were optimistic that we'd still be able to have our wedding on our original date, which was May 29th. End of April, I got a phone call from my dad where he said that he wasn't gonna fly out for the May 29th wedding because he didn't feel safe because of health issues. And I think that was when we both realized that we couldn't have our wedding on May 29th. Like, end of April was really hard because that was when we realized everything that we had been planning, everything that we've been paying for, everything that we've been hoping for wasn't gonna come true.
Yeah, it was really frustrating. And so May 29th, we decided to do a backyard wedding, which you can actually see some of the photos of what that looked like. But I think we could only have, 10 guests, and we did it instead of at the venue that we originally planned, we did it in your mama's backyard, which was still really nice, and it was great.
We did a lot of DIY stuff to turn my mom's small backyard into a wedding venue. So it wasn't as fancy as we were planning on. I didn't have my dad there, so that was really hard, but I was able to have my mom, John's parents, and a couple of our really close friends be there. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed that day. We had some really good food. My mom's neighbors are actually trained chefs, so they made food for us. They had a really good cake. It was everything that we could have hoped for a small backyard wedding. But we were still missing what we had planned. And we still longed for dancing. We still longed for my dad to be there. So we knew we weren't done yet.
So yeah, the backyard wedding was, really awesome, but there were so many people that we still wanted to celebrate with. We made the most of our situation, but we also knew that when things cleared up a little bit, we wanted to celebrate with all of our friends and loved ones. And so we decided to have a second wedding at the end of July.
But before that, our marriage license didn't get in time for the first wedding. So we've actually gotten married 3 times.
But yeah, anyway, so the road to the July wedding between May and July was chaotic. I mean, there was all these things going wrong, and so getting to that point was also really frustrating.
So as soon as we decided that we wanted to change our date, our venue was amazing. They told us we could change our date to a different day. It wouldn't cost us any extra, even though our original date was not peak wedding season and our new date was peak wedding season. They didn't charge us any extra for moving it. That moment, once we got confirmation of our new date, I emailed every single one of our vendors to make sure they could still do it. So it was very, very scary because I had already put deposits down on all of these vendors, and I wasn't sure if any of them would be able to do our new date.
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking, especially because there was potential that we would have lost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on this new date and with, everything that was going on. But at this point, things were calming down, regulations were, loosening up, and so we were really optimistic. And our caterers came through, our DJ came through.
Everyone was available immediately except for our florist, which kind of left me in a tight spot because I didn't want to spend a ton of money on flowers, especially since we weren't 100% sure we'd even be able to have this wedding. Because as you guys know, with COVID, numbers go up and then they go down, so restrictions go up and restrictions go down. So as we were planning for this new wedding, we were still scared that we wouldn't be able to have it. I started planning, figuring out what I was going to do for flowers. I actually prefer what we did over having a florist. I purchased flowers from Sam's Club wholesale, so cheap. And then my bridesmaids and I just had a little party get together where we put together all of the bouquets and all the decorations, and we'll put in some pictures of everything that we created. It looks like someone professional did it, but we paid like $300, so we saved a lot of money on that. And then 1 month before our wedding, everything was going smoothly, everything was falling into place, and then I got this message from our photographer, and she forgot that she scheduled another wedding the day before our wedding on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
So she couldn't do ours. And I was freaking out.
She was, but fortunately, you know, her maid of honor was a photographer, and another friend, you know, of hers was a really, really good photographer, and so they stepped up and they said, you know what, we're gonna fill in and you know, do what we have to do. And so it was really neat. A lot of people at various parts of the wedding kind of came in and supported us in different ways, because yeah, with a COVID wedding, it was not traditional at all.
Mm-hmm. And I would say even with the planning for our second wedding, John and I went through like a lot of different emotions. I was excited for this wedding the whole time. I mean, I was still nervous that we wouldn't be able to have it, but I still had a lot of hope that we would be able to have it, and I was so excited because I have wanted for years have always wanted my dad to walk me down the aisle, and I didn't get that at our first wedding, so I was really excited to have that, and so I was hoping that we could have it. I was excited to have our friends and family with us that we didn't get to have before. So I was the excited one, but John struggled a lot during this planning period.
I was not looking forward to it, but just because I hated planning the wedding in the first place. I was already stressed out with COVID. I think the hardest part too was because of COVID, a lot of people didn't feel comfortable coming, and so there was a lot of rejections, a lot of no, you can't come, da 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 da. So that was disheartening. And yeah, I was kind of fed up. I was really done, and I was like, you know what, we're already married, what's the point? It wasn't until I started seeing some of the details come together that I finally got on board. And yeah.
Like 2 weeks before the wedding.
She ignored all my wishes.
His wishes were to stop planning the wedding.
I just didn't want to do the second wedding. So yeah, we, you know, gave it a shot. I finally came on board, and yeah, I don't regret it. It was an amazing experience. You know, people wore their masks. The wedding was also outside too, which helped. You know, we cut down on our guest list, which was bittersweet because, you know, there's less people that, you know, there's people that I wanted to see that weren't able to make it. Totally understandable. But cutting down the guest list saved us a ton of money. Well, we'll try again.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a really, really neat experience, and so yeah, I don't, you know, regret it. I don't think either of us regret it, because we got to have our intimate wedding with our close family and some friends, and we got to have a little bit of a larger wedding with dancing and food, and the best part was no one from that wedding got sick from COVID.
Not a single person caught COVID at our wedding, and that was such a miracle. Like, that was something we were really worried about, and we felt really guilty about for having a wedding, was what if someone gets it? But everyone knew that they were going to a wedding. They social distanced from people. They were prepared to give up some of their time before the wedding to make sure that they were safe in order to be safe at our wedding. And for one day, it felt like COVID didn't exist. And that was the best part about this whole thing, was that we could just pretend that life was back to normal again. And for having to go through all that stress, it was worth it to just forget for 6 hours that COVID didn't exist.
And I heard from a lot of our guests was, you know, life felt normal. And everyone got to determine whether or not this wedding was worth the risk for themselves. And so the people who showed up, they had a great time. They didn't get sick. And I'm glad we didn't let the fear of this pandemic, you know, ruin a great opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful. I know Megan was very grateful. And so, yeah, we just did. We got married twice, 2.5 times.
2.5.
Yeah, she got to wear her dress 2 of those times.
What a great deal.
And yeah, it was a really unique thing. And so a couple things we learned from that whole experience was, one, you know, cherish the moments that you have with the people that you love, because they come and go so quickly. And so we made sure that we took advantage of this opportunity to be with our friends and our family and, you know, have that second wedding and, you know, do a backyard wedding and not let the pandemic get in the way of getting married in the first place. And I think another thing we learned is how to really roll with the punches. You know, you kind of have to go with the flow with wedding planning in general, but especially when there's a pandemic, you just have to be okay with people saying, I'm not coming, sorry, I'm nervous about the virus. Totally fair, totally understandable.
I would say just be present in the moment during wedding planning because it's your engagement season. And engagement season's a lot of fun. Like, it's stressful because of wedding planning, but you're getting to know your significant other even more. And then also during the wedding, it goes by so quickly that my advice would just be to be present. Be present in that moment.
Yeah, no, it's moments like this that when you look back, you know, 2020 has been a rough year for a lot of people, but 2020 is also the year that we got married, so it wasn't all bad. And it was a day that a lot of people got to have fun, you know, at a beautiful venue in the mountains and, you know, just celebrate us. And yeah, it was a good time. So that's life. It's got its highs and its lows. Okay, so comment down below, what is your favorite wedding memory? Whether it's your wedding, someone else's wedding, what is just something that you cannot ever forget? And don't forget to like and subscribe because next week
we are going to be doing a wedding tips and hacks video. So I'm sure as you heard us talking throughout this video, you heard us talking about how we save some money, whether it be with DIY wedding decorations or making your own wedding flowers. So we will be talking all about that next week. So if you are newly engaged, you're about to be engaged, or you have kids who are getting engaged, stay tuned for next week's video because it's going to be packed full of some amazing wedding tips.
Yeah, no, we learned a lot, and so we want to share that with you, which is the whole purpose of our channel. So yeah, don't forget to stay tuned, and in the meantime,
Adios.